With Halloween fast approaching this year, there is no better time to watch the original Halloween movie from 1978. The movie that paved the way for generations of slashers to come and also provided the birth of one of the most iconic horror characters ever, Michael Myers. It is a cold Halloween night and we can see a sort of first-person perspective of somebody creeping around outside, stalking a young lady in a house. We assume it could be a killer or some sort of peeping Tom. He enters the house, goes upstairs and proceeds to murder the young teenager. We meet Dr. Loomis, who's been treating Michael for the last 15 years. It is now 1978. He travels to the mental asylum with a nurse, and for some odd reason, the patients are just lurking around outside. And even though the opening scene was really chilling and really terrifying once you actually learn that it's a 6-year-old behind the mask murdering his sister, there is something really disturbing about going to a mental asylum. It's pitch black dark and there are lunatics wandering around outside. What sort of mental asylum lets their patients just wander around like that? I'm sure that they have some kind of roaming freedom, but they just seem to be a little bit too free for my liking. But it does add to the creepy factor. Dr. Loomis has the same suspicions as me, believes that there's something odd happening, that the patients are roaming around free, gets out of the vehicle to investigate, and that's where Michael Myers appears, jumps on top of the roof of the car, traumatizes the nurse as she escapes the vehicle, but Michael Myers enters and escapes the mental asylum. So we never actually see Michael Myers inside the asylum. Rob Zombie's remake focuses a lot on Michael Myers actually inside the asylum being treated. You see him as a child. This one, you don't see anything. It's just fast forward 15 years into the future. Michael Myers commandeers the vehicle and escapes the mental asylum, which looks like it's quite minimal in security if you ask me. Michael Myers returns to Haddonfield, his hometown, and he's always drawn back into his original home and always goes into the room where he murdered his sister in 1963 and just keeps staring out the window, possibly looking for more victims to slay. And this is where we meet Laurie Strode, played by the iconic Jamie Lee Curtis. Michael seems to be obsessed with Laurie Strode, begins stalking her and murdering anybody that gets in his way. This is where we're treated to some iconic scenes of creepiness. The movie doesn't rely on gore or violence all that much, surprisingly. John Carpenter does a fantastic job directing here, making it super creepy and terrifying the way Michael appears, disappears, stalks Laurie and her friends. All the while, that absolutely infamous Halloween music is playing in the background. Which I might add was also created by John Carpenter as well. Not only did he direct this with absolutely phenomenal camera work, he actually wrote the music as well. Not too shabby for a director that has been known to state he has no musical talent whatsoever. I love rewatching the original Halloween. Still one of the best, if not the best in the series. It's definitely worth watching and rewatching. The movie that inspired a generation of horror to come. Even though it's a fantastic film, it is not perfect. There are some negatives that I want to mention in this movie before I rate it. The acting here can be quite horrible at times. Specifically, Annie.
Hi, Annie.
Oh, hi, Paul.
Stuck, huh?
All right, cut it out. It could happen to anyone.
Sure, stuck in a window.
Yeah, but I've seen you stuck in plenty of other positions.
My parents are gone.
Oh, that's fabulous. When did they leave?
About a half hour ago.
Oh, utterly fantastic.
But it also makes it laugh out loud funny as well. So even though the acting at times can be terrible, it does add to the humor a little bit when you're rewatching a movie from the 70s. And introducing Jamie Lee Curtis in her first role. Obviously, being her first role, she's not going to be the best actor. And at times, I believe she did overact and at times wasn't quite convincing. But overall, I think she definitely did the best job out of all of the friends in the group. The best actor by far in the movie is Donald Pleasence, the actor that plays Dr. Loomis. He's absolutely phenomenal and convincing and gives a great speech how he sees nothing but true evil inside the eyes of Michael Myers.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
There's some very obvious audio dubbing here as well. The sound isn't the best quality. This is 1978. The budget was extremely low, and it's a very small nitpick. It's noticeable, so I thought I'd mention it, but it definitely doesn't take away from the overall experience, which is why Halloween, the original movie from 1978, that inspired future horror movies for generations and still does to this day, gets a 12 out of 13, almost maxes out Bannock 13's creepy meter. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. If you're a horror fan, you need to see this movie that paved the way for the future of horror and also brought to life the legendary Michael Myers' iconic horror character. And like I said, I rewatch this every year for Halloween. I watched it last night. I also watched part 2, which the review is coming out for really soon. Also, the plan is to review every Halloween movie in the series. I just don't know whether I'll have time to upload them all before Halloween night this year. They're definitely coming, and the only way that you'll be able to see them is if you subscribe now, click that notification bell, and keep on coming back to the creepiest channel on the YouTubes.